She booked a spontaneous reset weekend without asking, 2 QR codes dropping into my messages. At the curb, she aimed a kiss at the air beside my cheek, courtesy without contact, then angled her carry-on so the cobalt blue compass tag faced me. Its arrow spun as if the airport couldn't agree on north. "Surprise," she said. I told her I was already packed. With her, I keep a travel bag ready. Inside, the terminal made its usual music, bins clacking, wheels humming, a voice telling us to move along. She walked half a beat ahead the way people do when they expect a camera, phone brightness on high, screen tilted outward. At security, she told the agent I was her emotional support human. He laughed. I didn't bristle. I watched her other hand turn the phone face down before the tray slid away. At the gate, she called her inner circle. She tipped the camera toward me for a breath, proof I existed, then panned to the plane like it was the true partner. "If I get lost, I'll just crash at his place kidding," she sang, eyes tracking the boxes for laughter. It came back on cue. I smiled on cue. Inside, I marked the line and filed it under rehearsed. The compass tag clicked the metal seat every time her knee bounced, precise, regular. A kid, too, rose over stared. She flicked the tag so the arrow spun again, then posted a story. She tagged the airport we hadn't left and a handle I didn't recognize, a name with a small flame beside it. Catching my glance, she raised her paper cup. "Don't be weird," she said. I said I was. Announcements hiccuped. She leaned in and whispered that she'd upgraded our seats with points, "because you deserve it," and I said thank you in the tone I use for careful bridges. Last week she changed a password mid-sentence and smiled like it was housekeeping. Not a theory, just a dot on a page. Dots don't accuse anyone until they arrange themselves. When our group was called, she rose in a practice sweep. On the jet bridge, the AC hit and the compass shivered on its loop. She held her phone low and checked a message by dragging the preview down. No unlock, no pause, one motion learned by repetition. "Big reset," she said, bumping my shoulder. "No expectation, just fun." I matched her tone. Fun isn't neutral when it arrives with a script. She took the window without asking. The cabin smell, coffee, warm plastic, lemon, settled. Reaching across me to shove her bag under the seat, she brushed my knee with the compass tag, a cold coin on skin. She pulled back as if I'd intruded, then smoothed the tag with her palm, polishing the moment. Anger didn't arrive. Alertness did, like a seatbelt locking one click tighter. Over the wing, heat turned the tarmac into a wavering sheet. She opened her notes app, typed a line, deleted it, typed another. Her posture said casual, the tendons at her wrist said not. I studied the compass. The arrow wandered, paused, wandered again. She threaded her fingers through mine, warmth, then let go to answer the phone, banners lighting from names I didn't recognize. "This is going to be good for us," she said. I nodded to keep the air smooth. "I don't make scenes on airplanes. I store them. The missed kiss, the phone face down, the preview swipe, the flame-tagged handle, how her joke needed witnesses. A joke can be a map with most of the road erased." The compass kept spinning. She laughed at something on her screen. I didn't join her. I wasn't laughing. I was awake. She landed in stride. At the boutique desk, the clerk said, "Welcome back," though she'd sworn it was her first time here. She laughed and corrected nothing. The cobalt blue compass hung from her carry-on as a badge. She tapped it with one nail as the clerk slid 2 key cards. "Put the minibar on his," she told him, smiling as if generous. A man met us in the lobby bar before I set my bag down. He introduced himself as her brand manager and shook my hand with a grip people practice in mirrors. "We'll grab content in the market late light," he said, eyes on her calendar. "Then an industry dinner." She clinked his glass, then mine. Outsiders arrived. A photographer waved, then asked me to step out of frame. A florist delivered stems for her room and handed me the receipt. A vendor she knew by first name joked, "You must know the inside story," and waited for my cue. I held the smile you use for polite strangers and gave him nothing extra. She took selfies. Arm high, chin tipped, the compass tag swung into the corner like a signature. She didn't ask if I wanted in. She asked if I could hold her jacket. When I lifted the phone to shoot a behind-the-scenes clip, she rotated it 15 degrees, editing me without saying my name. "We love a supportive partner," she murmured to whoever would watch. My phone vibrated with a security prompt. "Your code is for a login to Cloud Notes." I stared until it dimmed. She peeked over my wrist. Your phone haunted, she said light and reclaimed the view with her own screen. I had changed nothing. Last week, a shared folder reappeared with a new owner tag, then vanished. Dots, not lines, but waiting. At the market, a guy in a branded apron said he'd sent the DMs she requested. He glanced at me, inventory check, not curiosity. She said, "He's cool," and smiled with that efficient warmth that turns people into temporary teammates. The compass clicked on the basket each time she set it down, a metronome I hadn't learned. Back in the room, she lined up outfits and filmed a try-on reel. "Turn that lamp," she said, and I did. She spoke to the lens about shared boundaries and winked. The phrasing echoed a private draft I wrote months ago, same cadence, different clothes. When I asked if she'd seen it, she shrugged. Ideas float. She lifted the compass to the camera, said it kept our trip on track, and laughed. Dinner with her people felt like sitting in the splash zone of a show. A friend told a story that required knowing details about me I'd never offered, then apologized quickly. The brand manager mapped the morning. A sunrise run, a cafe meet, a rooftop. Someone mentioned an afterparty at his place, kidding, and laughter arrived on schedule. I set my glass on the coaster and kept my face even. Another code pinged. New sign in on a web browser. I didn't open it. She leaned past me to accept a dessert shaped like a compass, part of the theme. She posted it with a caption about finding north. When I reached for the fork, she pulled the plate closer, making the motion noticed. None of these moments explained anything by themselves. Together, they built a room I didn't recognize. Introductions that excluded me, jokes I hadn't rehearsed, prompts arriving from outside like alerts. She raised her glass and thanked my people. I set my phone on the table and opened a blank note. Title, Compass. First line, list what is given, not what is promised. That's when I started taking notes. The first clue wasn't content, it was choreography. Morning arrived on rails, run, shoot, brunch, a panel where she would open up. In the elevator, she planted a palm on my chest for the camera, then slid away as the doors parted. The cobalt blue compass tapped my sleeve when she spun the bag, a logo in motion. I chose to watch, not solve. At the cafe, one name lit her lock screen and everything tilted a degree. She laughed before reading. Her thumb hovered above unlock, then retreated, the phone flipped face down. "You good?" she asked, stirring sugar too fast. I said I was. We reviewed panel prompts. Promised, real, playful. Those words rarely carry equal weight. She reused last night's tease, same rhythm, new nouns. When the server asked if we were celebrating, she called it a tiny reset and winked at a crowd that wasn't there. The server laughed late. In the room, she drafted a caption aloud, watching my face more than the screen. "Too much?" she asked, then posted without waiting. Reaching for a charger, she brushed my wrist with the compass tag and recoiled half an inch, glancing at the touch like I'd pressed. A beat later, she softened and offered me the window side for the light. The kindness felt like a correction. I kept counting the smalls. In the car, she angled her phone only when that same name appeared. Other threads stayed open. The driver asked if we were locals. She said yes, then no, then changed the subject. Stage habits, pressure, not proof. The panel set chairs in grids and a backdrop practicing spontaneity. I watched from a column as she walked into light. Asked about boundaries in creative couples, she quoted a line from a private note I wrote last winter, almost verbatim, and didn't look over. She called the idea her north. The compass winked from the bag at her feet. Afterward, a man in a soft jacket congratulated me for being impressively progressive. "Why?" I asked. "You two must be flexible," he said, hands lifting like Pilates. I told him we had honesty. He said she'd told people she was free to explore, with respect. Respect wears well on camera. We had an hour before the flight home. At security, she laced her fingers through mine, then let go to greet a photographer who happened to be there. At baggage claim, the compass brushed my wrist. She stepped back as if the contact crossed a line we never drew. "Static," she said, shaking her hand. The arrow spun and spun. That name lit her screen and she ran the sequence again, pre-laugh, hover, face down. I timed it quietly, 4 seconds from banner to smile, 7 to face down. When the suitcase dropped, she missed it, the photographer didn't, filming the catch. "You're a natural," he said. "We rehearse," she answered. On the plane, she used my shoulder as a prop for sleep, phone set just out of reach. Twice her thumb twitched toward it. When the seatbelt sign pinged, she woke as if to a cue. "You okay?" she asked, tracing circles on the compass tag, stopping when she noticed me noticing. "I'm counting steps," I said. Anyone else could file the day under busy schedule and harmless jokes. I could, too. Every moment had an alibi. But scripts aren't built line by line, they're cut to rhythm. The laugh that lands too soon, the joke repeated because it was tested, the hand that flinches from a touch it once kept. I had no conclusions, only choreography, and choreography tells the truth even when people don't. We landed late. At the rideshare curb, she looped the carry-on strap around her wrist and spun the cobalt blue compass until the arrow stuttered. My phone buzzed from an unknown number with a blue waveform icon. I didn't press play yet. She checked her reflection in the van window while the compass tapped the bench like a metronome. In the car, she tilted her screen toward the ceiling and typed with two thumbs. My phone buzzed again. I listened. A man's voice, gentle, unsteady, with traffic under it. "Hey, I was told you and she are basically done. She said you're cool with her being free. If that's off, I'm sorry, I don't want drama." I replayed it. Once for content, again for the pauses, how he hesitated before free, how he underlined she said. I watched the compass rocking at her knee. A follow-up text arrived before the seatbelt light dimmed. "You two are open, right?" Another message. She gave me your number for transparency. My number offered as evidence I'd agreed. At home, she slid the carry-on onto the counter. The compass skidded, arrow pointing at me, then away. She patted the tag with a thumb and went to rinse off. I opened my laptop. Security page, recent activity. A new device, different city, access time overlapping our dinner. A shared folder marked drafts talks showed an export at 8:12 p.m. I hadn't touched it. The file name carried her style, stacked nouns, no spaces. I scrolled. A line I wrote in January about how private work isn't raw material had been lifted into a new document in her account, now titled around Finding North Together. Not theft with fingerprints, the quiet duplication of a key, the shower cut off. She stepped into the kitchen barefoot, hair up, phone down. "You get something urgent?" she asked, opening a cabinet. I said it was billing. She nodded, already scrolling. The compass tapped the door, a hollow knock. I texted the man back. "Where did you meet?" He replied fast. A pop-up after the panel, then "We've been chatting a bit." Then another voice note. "She told me you're both modern about this," he said, relief smoothing his tone. "Said you travel a lot and she's allowed to explore as long as it stays light." He apologized again, the kind people use when they fear looking naive. I saved the voice notes to a folder labeled by date and minute. I added screenshots of the security page, the export log, the file names with her fingerprints. Not rage, record keeping. The story had structure now, her joke at the gate read like a thesis. When I closed the laptop, she was tracing the compass arrow with her nail, a slow circle you'd miss if you weren't looking. "Don't be weird," she said, smiling into the refrigerator light, pretending to consider grapes she wouldn't eat. "I'm not," I answered, hearing how my voice had become careful. In bed, she turned away and reached back to find my hand, the same choreography as the plane. I let our fingers meet, then let them go. On my nightstand, my phone pulsed once more. The man sent a final line: "If I overstepped, I'll step back." It wasn't brave, it was tidy. He believed the version where I'd signed off on my own disappearance. Acceptance didn't thunder. It arrived like a time stamp you can't edit, precise, indifferent. I watched the compass tag glow on the closet knob, the arrow trying to settle. I didn't need it to point anywhere. I knew where I stood and what had been done with my words while I held a light for her camera. Exposure didn't arrive as gossip. It showed up on a calendar with a bell icon. While she showered, I opened the shared laptop and found a new tile. "Birthday roast, live." The description promised stories never told. Inside the asset folder were screenshots of my winter drafts. Lines I wrote at 1 a.m. beside them, notes in her handwriting. "Punch here, soften for sponsors, make him lovable but clueless." The cobalt blue compass tag lay by the trackpad, its arrow twitching when the fan kicked on. She came out in a towel and flicked the tag with a nail. "We're going to make something memorable," she said, hunting for lip balm. I asked what the live stream was. She blinked, then smiled like I'd missed a cue. "Interactive birthday thing, harmless." My phone buzzed. A folder I owned had switched to anyone with the link. I hadn't changed it. On her desk a deck ran itself, slides advancing on a timer, an agenda read Finding North, Laughing South. Midway, a slide called Our Favorite Inside Joke paired my recent client pitch with a meme of a sinking boat. "You'll love the surprise," she said from behind me, watching my reflection more than the words. I said the pitch was under NDA. She waved the towel like a magician guarding a trick. "Names are blurred," she said, kissing the air near my jaw. "Refund issued." Then she hooked the compass to the ring light, blue eye over the lens. "Brand continuity," she whispered. Her brand manager pinged. "Run through 7, mic check 7:30, doors 8. I scrolled to a slide titled Boundaries Q&A, where she'd read playful questions about how we keep things open and honest. My voice note folder flashed in my head. She had told a stranger I'd agreed to fade, and now she wanted a crowd to applaud. She turned the living room into a set, tape on the floor, a stool for me just out of frame, supportive, invisible. "You can moderate the chat," she said, pressing the tag against the light as if North should be wherever the camera pointed. I told her moderating meant liability. She laughed and said people loved when couples could take a joke. While she tested the mic, a whisper leaked from the speaker. "Remember to tease the pitch." Another voice, and the draft skipped the last paragraph, too sincere. Her hands were steady on gear and unsure when I met her eyes. That contrast mattered more than any slide. A sponsor email arrived. "Integrate the North Compass motif, reference his supportive role." I pictured my face with a promo code, my work reduced to a discount. I changed recovery contacts and saved export logs and timestamps. She asked for ice. In the kitchen, the fridge hummed while the tag tapped the ring light with a plastic chime. I messaged the man, "There's a live show tonight." He replied with an emoji, and "She said you'll be there to keep it light." He wasn't an enemy, just a witness who didn't know he'd bought a ticket. Tomorrow I had a client meeting, one that would end if our pitch turned into content. Exposure wasn't a rumor to outrun. It was scheduled, sponsored, and staffed, and it expected me to clap on cue. She breezed back, lipstick capped, compass steady above the lens like a promise she could point to later. "Ready?" she asked, squeezing my shoulder and missing my expression by inches. I looked at the screen where my words were cued for laughter and nodded once. I wasn't afraid of the crowd. I was making a list of what would still be mine after the light turned red. 2 hours before stream time, my phone lit with a message from her friend, the one who usually posts confetti. No emoji now. "Call me," she wrote, then a link arrived. "North Roast Talking Points." I opened it and watched a plan assemble. Bullets covered outcomes. If he resists, smile, call him thoughtful but intense. If he cites privacy, say we've discussed boundaries. If he asks to cut a bit, nod, then keep it. A timestamp claimed I'd said fun over rules at the panel. I hadn't. Another friend, quieter in person than online, forwarded group chat grabs. Someone wrote, "If he goes off script, tilt to too sensitive." Another, "Show the compass, it softens him." A checklist read, "Pull his drafts, crop dates, tag shared." The author tag was hers. I called the first friend, road noise, thin voice. "I thought you were in on it," she said. "She told us you were cool, that it was your idea." I asked where the drafts came from. Silence then. "She said you sent them." My security logs disagreed. While we spoke, an email pinged from the brand manager's assistant, likely misaddressed. "Run of show with handling notes, not lighting. If he references NDAs, pivot to art imitates life. If he walks off, keep smiling, chat rewards calm." Next to a photo of my desk, shared workspace, shared stories. Across the room, she tested the mic. The cobalt blue compass hung from the ring light, a blue coin over the lens. She rotated the tag until the arrow pointed at her chin. "North," she told the empty room, memorizing it. The quiet friend rang again and sent a folder receipt. My drafts talks mirrored into a new directory at 2:11 a.m., tags stripped. "She said those were co-written," the friend added, "and that you signed a release." I told her I hadn't. "I'm sorry," she said, stepping off a stage she hadn't known she was on. I saved everything, thread, chat, receipt, to a drive she didn't know existed. File names like ledger lines. 1 planning, 2 handling, 3 export. Anger deletes. I needed records. From the hallway, laughter, the brand manager with a tote and the confidence of a locked narrative. "We're golden," he said. "You good?" Hands hovered over gear. I said I was reviewing what would air. "It's just a joke," he offered. The words fluttered against the ring light. The compass trembled. He reached for my laptop, failed to log in, then pretended he'd wanted a cable. His watch flashed a text from his assistant. His eyes skipped. Their story held in public and leaked in private. The loudest friend from dinner sent a final note. For what it's worth, I thought she had your permission. Attached, her pitch to the group. We're modern, she'd written. He's chill, he knows he's part of the bit. One line circled. If he goes earnest, say he's protecting his brand. Exits pre-built. She reset the camera height, checked her smile, then smoothed the compass so the arrow faced forward. Everything I needed was already here. The twist wasn't a stranger at the door. It was the door opening by itself, her own circle holding it, their notes undoing her public voice. I closed my folders, zipped the drive, and slipped it into my pocket. The countdown ticked toward 0. I wasn't guessing anymore. I was ready to stop letting other people narrate me. I didn't wait for the countdown. I unplugged the ring light, lifted the cobalt blue compass from its hook, and set it between us on the table like a coin. She folded her arms, then remembered the camera wasn't live and dropped them. I pressed play on the first voice note. His apology filled the space, halting, careful, heavy with she said. I let it run, then the second one, then quiet. I slid my printouts across, the run of show with handling notes, the group chat grabs, the export receipts. She scanned each page as if they were stage directions she already knew. When she looked up, her smile had edges. It's just a joke, she said, reaching for the compass. I steadied the tag. No, I told her even. It's a pattern. She tried a short top-row laugh. You're reading this unkindly, she said, squaring the pages, hoping straight lines could revise meaning. We thought you were chill. You said fun over rules, remember? She quoted a line I never spoke. I opened the slide where she'd posted it, her face adjusted as her own caption contradicted her. I've secured the drafts, I said. Permissions restored, recovery emails back to me. Here's the activity log, devices, locations, the 2:11 a.m. mirror. I tapped the entries without drama. Your friend didn't mislead me, I added. She was misled. Her posture went soft, then held. Let's reset, she said, switching to a brighter register. It's improv. We were going to credit you live. People love couples who can take a bit. She pressed her thumb to the compass until the arrow stopped, then let it spin again. Staged lightness. The live stream rights are revoked, I said, calm. Your manager has notice of a rights conflict on the 2 slides with my client material. The event page is private. Sponsors are informed they can keep their products and that we won't appear. She blinked, a small pause. I wish you'd talk to me before making it messy, she said. The word messy sat between us like a prop. She had mapped exit ramps for every reaction I might give except this quiet one. I played the last clip, her own message to the group. If he goes earnest, call him protective of his brand. She watched the line in her voice, then nodded to it like traffic. Fine, she said. I attempted to shift blame. I shouldn't have copied your drafts. I thought it would read as partnership. The apology had structure and not much weight. I'm not a bit, I answered. And our home isn't a set. I pointed at the tape on the floor, the stool for me just out of frame. Tomorrow my client would watch their pitch turned into entertainment. That doesn't happen, not with my help. She softened her face. We could still do something small, she offered. Cut the risky slides, tell a sweet version. People will rally. She angled toward me like the camera was still there. The compass arrow, tired of spinning, rested on a seam in the wood and pretended it had found direction. I gathered the papers, leaving copies. I'm ending this plan, I said. She opened her mouth, closed it, then arranged neutral. Is this goodbye, she asked. No, I said, standing. This is clarity. The ring light sat dark. The room was bright enough. I set the compass where she'd see it and toggled the event page one last time to private. I wasn't angry. I was finished narrating myself for her show, and I wanted the quiet that follows when you close a tab and the room can hear itself again. Fallout began before the ring light cooled. The page went private and sponsor alerts fired. Replies stacked in quiet fonts. Confirm rights. Remove client reference. A platform notice put the stream on hold for a privacy review. Ad credits froze. The brand manager wrote, "Let's settle this offline," attaching a clause demanding performance or fees. I forwarded everything to counsel and refunded what I could. On a call, my attorney clicked her pen and read the trail in clean lines. copied drafts, unauthorized exports, third-party distribution plans. We'll keep it precise, she said. 2 notices went out, one revoking use of my work, one barring the roast from using my name or likeness. I sent my client a timeline with screenshots. Their reply, "We appreciate the proactive step, tomorrow's pitch stands." Across the room she refreshed dashboards, jaw tight. Monetization withheld. Venue note, fee retained. She asked where the cobalt blue compass tag was without looking up. I set it beside her mouse. The arrow aimed at the invoices like it had an opinion. She tapped the tag twice and pushed it aside as if the table had become crowded. "We can turn it into a charity bit," she said, drafting a caption to frame the setup as a creative misunderstanding. She tested phrases that would preserve image and distribute cost. "It reads kinder if you post first," she added. I told her the only public thing from me would be silence and that the rest would be paperwork. My voice stayed level, her shoulders sank a fraction. The brand manager called to recut the run of show. "We'll say a friend leaked the slides," he proposed. I declined. He pivoted to terms, half the fee if the stream didn't air, all if it did. "Contract's clear," I replied with the privacy breach and rights notice. Silence, then a sigh like a curtain falling. Later, under review. "Then we'll absorb our costs." His assistant followed. "Your name is removed, please confirm." I did. We divided the practicals, subscriptions, shared cloud, the desk. She kept the camera kit, I kept the drives and drafts. She asked if I could float the venue loss, I declined. "Personal accountability feels colder than anger," she said, testing a line. I put it in my ledger to remember how she tried to make weather out of arithmetic. I booked a brief consult to document transfers of assets that began as mine. While the notary stamped, I remembered the first time she hung the compass on her bag, charming then. Now the tag lay on the table, blue coin beside a ledger, North replaced by terms and signatures. I wasn't nostalgic. Nostalgia is credit extended to a past that didn't pay its bill. By evening, the emails cooled. Refunds cleared, releases were acknowledged. She paced with phone high, inventorying, then set it down when she realized there was nothing left to frame. I zipped a travel bag with essentials and placed the compass on top so it wouldn't be mistaken for sentiment. She watched and didn't speak. Her look wasn't hate, it was math balancing. At the door she asked, "What do I tell people?" The same question, years and captions condensed into 6 words. "Tell them you made choices," I said. "I made mine." North isn't where an arrow insists. It's the direction of your feet when you stop performing. I stepped into the hall and let the latch catch without drama. The tag on the table faced a new wall. I didn't correct it. I don't correct ornaments anymore.